Circe. I'm about to talk at you guys an awful lot. I've been a performer since I was very small. I was the dormouse in a production of Alice in Wonderland because I was tiny and cute, and I could already read, and I had no apparent fear of being stared at by a room full of people. I've been a writer almost that long. My mother has a printout of something I typed for her when I was 5. I don't know if my writing's gotten any better, but I'm definitely a faster typist now. I'm trying to combine those two things into something that other people hopefully want to watch. I've been informed that I have a very interesting life. I don't see it, but you rarely do from the inside. And this piece, I hope, will transform words and movement into something that makes you laugh and makes you think, and maybe inspires you to tell a few stories of your own. I want you to bear in mind that this piece is a very stripped down version of movement monologue of a show that I really want to put on with fancy lights and music and animation, video, because my writing has footnotes and the footnotes have jokes in them. And I can't do that while talking. Just sit there and listen, and I hope my life is entertaining. I quit ballet when I was 10. My mother was very disappointed in me. I was supposed to be a third-generation dancer. It was a fad for Edwardian women's athletics that led ballet to go from a professional apprenticeship to a recreational pastime. If you thought that golf was insufficiently feminine, you could put your daughters in dance class. My grandmother and my great-aunt were right there, about yay high, almost 100 years ago. I told my mother it was because ballet was boring. I do best when I'm given all of the information at once and I'm left to pick it apart. But traditionally, ballet is built up from a series of tiny, repetitive drills. Not for me. It was pointless and endless, and I didn't understand where any of it was going, which made all of it excruciating. What I didn't tell them, what I couldn't articulate, was that it hurt. Let's back it up for a minute. I was a very clumsy kid. I'm a very clumsy adult too, but I've learned to wear leggings to cover the semi-permanent bruise right here from where I keep hitting tables and countertops. I did everything in my power to avoid anything athletic when I was young. I never knew what my limbs were doing, and I didn't understand what they wanted me to do differently to fix that. The dance teacher would tell everyone to stretch over as far as you could, and the rest of the class would do this and look like delicate little ballerinas. And then the teacher would look over at me and go, "What are you doing?" Because I was out here tipped over sideways like some crazy postmodernist kinetic sculpture, and she could not work out how I had gotten here. The thing is, I could do some of what they wanted. Not all of it. Like, I had no balance for dégagés. The other girls would stand up straight and drive their leg down, and I would wobble around like my knees were on ball bearings. But then they would tell us to stretch at the bar and work on our splits. The other girls would be all crazy knees and elbows all knotted up, and I would just go straight to the floor. In retrospect, I had a very good idea of what things were going to end in tears, but I was not in charge. The adults that were in charge thought I lacked confidence. I followed their instructions into injury after injury after injury, until a disastrous attempt to make me run an entire mile left me limping through school for several weeks. At which point, I decided that they were going to listen to my no, whether they wanted to or not. The next time one of them pushed me to do something I didn't like, I just sat right the fuck down and refused to do anything. They could put me in a leotard, they could drive me to a dance studio, but they could not make me cooperate once I was there. Thus ended my ballet career. I had no idea why I had so many problems. I didn't care. I just wanted to quit. Many years later, I was enjoying a brief fling with a professional acrobat. I met him when I accidentally ran away from home and joined the circus. It's a long story, and if you back me on Patreon, you'll hear it. Anyway, we were lying there one night, and I was sort of stretching my fingers out. He saw me do this with my hand, and he went, "Oh, you're hypermobile." And I went, that sounds like a professional opinion. So I went and I looked up some joint mobility tests on YouTube, your one-stop shop for crazy conspiracy theories, cooking hacks that'll probably burn your house down, and exercises and self-diagnosis. There's a bunch that you can do yourself. One of the ones I tested was for the hip joint. You lie back on the floor or bed, and you prop your leg up and just sort of gently pull it back towards your head as far as it goes. Most people can get back to about 90 degrees. Yeah, I don't think this test is calibrated for me. Another one I discovered was something called the Baton criteria. It's a measure of generalized joint hypermobility that's used to diagnose connective tissue disorders like ehlers danlos syndrome. It's a scale from 0 to 9. The higher your score is, the bendier you are, and anything over 5 gets you a clinical diagnosis. You get 1 point for being able to bend over with straight legs, put your palms on the ground. You get another point for every leg that bends backwards at the knee under pressure. 1 for each thumb that you can crank back to gross other people out. 1 for each pinky. And for each elbow. Ehlers danlos is an inborn error in collagen production. It's a genetic disease. I used to joke that I was such a mutant that I failed Pee Wee Ballet. I didn't know I was right. When I came back to dance classes as an adult, I thought this through and I realized 2 things. 1 is that if I wanted to stay safe, I was going to have to say no to a lot of stuff. Probably walk out on people who didn't listen to me. And 2, if I wanted to succeed, I was going to have to find my fellow weirdos. I was really just hoping for a teacher who would accept that this is the way I am, this is the way I move, I'm not just a collection of deficits to be corrected. And it turns out there are actually a few people who kind of want to work with all this. There's one that I'm taking classes with now. I love him to bits, I'm never quitting. And it's because he's really big on the idea of just using what you have. Not just me, but everyone in the class. We were doing street jazz in class one day, just a peppy little piece. And he gave us a turn that he said we were supposed to drive ourselves around with the left-hand side. And one of the other students was having a lot of trouble with it. It was obvious what the problem was. If you've ever danced, you know that you have a good side and you have a bad side, and it's always more comfortable to turn one way than the other. And the turn that he wanted happened to be on the bad side. Any other dance teacher would have given her a list of this and this and that. Things to watch, things to try and train her bad side to be better, to correct a deficit. Not this guy. His solution was one that I think is applicable to a lot of things in my new life as a D-list X-Man. He said, I know that everybody was supposed to drive themselves around with their left, but I just need you to pull yourself around. You're right.